want to save more money, don't work harder, work smarter. Or even better, be lazy. Doing nothing is good for you, and when it comes to your money, laziness could help you get ahead. Here are some seriously low effort, lazy habits to save you money. First up, treat savings like a bill. Rather than physically saving whatever is left at the end of the month, have your savings automated for as soon as your pay hits your bank account. It's like when you pay your bills. When you have direct debits that you know are coming out, you know that that is money that you don't have, and you should treat your savings exactly the same way. When you do that, it means that that money is ring-fenced. You're not gonna sort of mentally think that it's okay to spend it on something else. You're much less likely to do any impulse purchasing. I've said on here before that budgeting does not work for everyone, and if you don't like to budget down to the penny, it doesn't mean that you're lazy. It just means that that particular rigid idea of budgeting isn't necessarily for you. Life can be unpredictable, especially with kids having last minute social invitations and last minute school trips and all the other ancillary costs that come with having a family. When you automate savings and pay yourself first so that that money goes out as soon as your pay hits your bank account, it means that you're not mentally allocating that money to anything else. That money is going for future you, it's not being spent by current you. And automating this process means that you're not having to log into your banking app, figuring out how much you've got available to allocate towards savings, and then having to do the transfer manually every single month. Another way to automate your savings, if you prefer to only save tiny amounts every month, is to use an app like Plum. The app has a feature called Roundups where it looks at all your transactions and rounds them up to the nearest pound, and it then takes the difference and sets it aside in a pot, and you can use that as a way to save tiny amounts of money throughout the month, and you won't have to do anything at all once you've set it up. Next, swap envy for gratitude. Another very low effort way to save more money is to stop comparing other people's apparent wealth to your own, and more importantly, stop spending money to keep up. Comparison is truly the thief of joy, and often your money too, and it is exhausting trying to keep up with the Joneses in a day and age when you can see the fabulous lifestyles of millions of people all over the planet in your smartphone. We tend to compare upwards rather than downwards, so we compare ourselves to people with the bigger house, with the nicer car, who appear to have far more holidays and nicer holidays than we do every year. And the temptation to spend to try and keep up with that is quite hard to resist. A survey found that 2/3 of Americans believe that social media has increased overspending. The thing you've got to remember is that people on social media don't share their bank statement with you. They are sharing with you the stuff that they have bought, so what they're showing you really is their liabilities, not necessarily their assets. The trouble with comparing ourselves to that is we don't have all the information. We don't know about the debts and the sacrifices that have gone into having a lifestyle that looks like that. And sometimes what looks to be a very rich lifestyle actually doesn't have much wealth behind it. It can all be an illusion because of debt and high mortgages and remortgages. You just don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We can waste so much time and energy trying to look rich, and stress as well. Whereas we should view money as an asset and something that we can use to better our lives, we often do fall into the trap of using it for short-term gratification, for buying stuff that makes us feel better in the moment or helps us to join in with projecting that image of wealth. Rather than working harder to earn more money or getting yourself into debt, trying to keep up with this perfect lifestyle, instead practice gratitude with regards to what you already have. And be clear on your own priorities for your money rather than being dictated to by what other people have and assuming that that has to be what your life looks like. Money cannot buy you happiness, but your approach to money can, which leads me nicely onto my next point, which is to adjust your money mindset. If your current relationship with money is not serving you, maybe because you have certain emotional triggers that make you overspend, then it's a good time to assess and maybe change your money mindset. I talk a lot about our emotional connection to money on this channel because it has a huge impact on our finances. There's a reason why even people who are very wealthy and very good with money, let's say for example investment bankers, there's a reason why even they employ financial advisors to tell them the best place to put their money, because they're employing someone who can take emotion out of the decisions and give them very clinical recommendations for the best thing to do with their money. So something that doesn't require much effort from you at all, you can do it lying on the sofa in your PJs, is to reflect on your financial perspective. What is your money going on? What causes you to overspend if you are overspending? And what impact is that having on your finances? And just to be clear, there's no correct money mindset that you should adopt. As with so many things in life, there's no precise blueprint to being good with your money aside from the general general point of living below your means. But if you are struggling to balance your budget, then a simple money mindset adjustment can really make a difference, and it can make the difference from today. Try following these steps. Start off by examining your relationship with money. As part of this, think about your spending on essentials and non-essentials as well. So with your essentials, do you take time to figure out the best value for money for yourself, or are you quite sort of laissez-faire with things? You've had exactly the same insurance plan for years and you've never bothered to go away and try and find a better deal for yourself. With your non-essentials, are you an impulse spender? Are you sort of triggered by certain things such as sales material or social media, or the money envy that we talked about earlier in the video? And what is your general attitude towards money? For example, do you feel really panicked that there's never enough? Once you've confronted and identified negative or limiting beliefs, you can start to make changes. The next step is to invest in learning. Engaging in listening to people talk about finances is so valuable for your day-to-day money habits, because it can just shift your mindset quite easily from one where you're not really paying attention to what you do with your money when you spend it, to one where you're a little bit more focused on the detail and you're searching out for the best value, and you're resisting those impulse purchases because you know in the long run it's going to be better for you to do so. Follow some educational money accounts on Instagram, maybe read some newspaper columns in the money section, try listening to some money podcasts. There are so many out there. And also try picking up a personal finance book. I personally really rate The Psychology of Money. It has really transformed the way I think about money and really made me reflect on my own emotional relationship with my money. And finally, practice gratitude, focusing in on what you have rather than what you don't. The next tip is to use the power of compound interest. This video celebrates laziness, but whatever you do, you should not allow your money to be lazy. Your money should be working hard for you all the time. You need to harness the power of interest, which means that the savings that you put aside are growing every month. And there's very much a snowball effect here. You can start off with really small amounts and it doesn't really feel that you're getting anywhere. But over time, if you're consistent, even with a small amount that you are setting aside, you can get to a stage where a large pot of money is making much more, because the amount of interest that you're earning on that pot of money is so much more, and it is helping you with that momentum. Too many people do not take advantage of decent interest rates. In fact, figures from the Bank of England suggest that 250 billion sits in zero interest accounts, and in the US, 17% of Americans aren't earning interest on their short-term savings. That's money lost. That's money you could be earning by doing absolutely nothing. This isn't a YouTube channel where I dish out financial advice. The best savings account for you is going to be very personal to you. But for longer term consistent saving, investing has proven to give a far better rate of return than a bog standard savings account. In the longer term, putting money into investments rather than in savings gives a much better rate of return. Now, I really have to emphasize that longer term point, because the value of investments can go down and they can go up. It's what you're looking at is the average, and historically, investments such as in the US S&P 500 has given a 10% return, but that's over a very long period. For example, if you were to invest over the course of the next 12 months, you couldn't necessarily guarantee a 10% return. We're talking about a long game here. And that point leads us over to my next tip, which is to use a general investment account. Investing doesn't have to be high maintenance or take up a ton of your time. And you don't need to worry about studying the markets and figuring it all out and understanding exactly how it all works. And it's good to have a vague idea, obviously, of where you're putting your money, but you don't have to buy individual stocks and shares and sell them and figure out what on earth you're doing. A good way of streamlining your savings and investments is to use a platform that automatically creates a pot of investments for you. And that means you don't have to worry about picking where your money is invested. And with a general investment account, the platform does it for you. Next tip is be ready. When you have an emergency bill or an annual bill, you don't want to be wasting effort, time, and stress on figuring out how on earth you're going to afford it. Make sure that you have an emergency fund and a sinking fund ready in place so that when these things come up, you can just pay the bill. An emergency fund is for paying for actual emergencies, so unexpected things that happen, such as your car runs over a pothole and you have to replace a tire. A sinking fund is for expected costs. So an example would be home and car insurance renewal or annual Christmas costs. Creating these pots of money money is all part of that automated savings process that we talked about at the start. You just figure out what are you going to need in your emergency fund. I think a really, really good place to start is having 1K put away in an emergency fund. And then for your sinking fund, you just need to add up all of your annual bills, divide it by 12 months, and that's how much you should be aiming to put aside in a sinking fund. Have it automated and you don't even have to worry about it. And then when the matter arises, when the bill comes, the money's there to pay for it and there's no stress for you. The next lazy savings tip is don't check out. When you add an impulse purchase to your shopping basket when you're shopping online, just don't check out. Don't check out for 48 hours. And I can almost guarantee you that in that time, you'll be able to remind yourself that this is a want and not a need. And actually studies have shown that just the process of online shopping and clicking to add something to our cart is enough of like a dopamine hit, you know, that rush you get when you've ordered something new that feels really good. Just the act of adding it to your cart, so that positive action, is enough to kind of tide you over if you're someone who is a bit of a shopaholic. Find discounts easily. You don't want to be scrabbling around on the internet looking for coupon codes. Instead, add a browser extension like Honey, and what it will do is when you are online shopping, it will automatically find discount codes for you. And speaking of discounts, never ever shop at a supermarket without your loyalty card. And if you're someone who often forgets some of their loyalty cards, maybe you have them in a separate purse or you have them loose and you have to remember to take them out of a drawer to take them with you, add them to your phone. I have my loyalty cards for Tesco and for Sainsbury's on my iPhone stored in the wallet so that I'm never without them when I go shopping. So many products are now subject to loyalty prices at the big supermarkets like Tesco and Sainsbury's that it can cost you as much as £20 or more a month if you forget your loyalty card. That works out to be hundreds of pounds over the course of a year. I hope you found these lazy habits for saving money useful. Obviously, all of these require a little bit of effort at the beginning to either set up, such as automating your savings, or a little bit of brain power just to think and reflect. However, I hope you'll see, but by taking these steps and getting these habits incorporated into your life, in the longer run, it will reduce the amount of time that you waste worrying about your budget. It will save you money, which is the most important thing. And also another thing that I think is so important is that it will reduce stress for you. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe for lots more saving money tips from me.